What's up, ladies? How's it going? I hope that you are well. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So we are here today, ladies, to talk about just like what, man, right? Like lightening up. Like, how do we like put on our clothes and feel good and feel comfortable in the world? And like, this whole relationship with food and what to do. And there's so many different diets out there. And I had this thought this morning, and the thought was liposuction. Right. I will totally confess that I have heard once a long time ago that you're not responsible for your first thought because the mind is just that way, right? Like it remembers everything that we've seen, everything that we've heard, everywhere that we've been. There's like this collective consciousness. Now, regardless if you believe it or not, like somewhere, somehow, right? Like I didn't make up the idea of liposuction. Like it's out there. God bless, I'm on this one doctor's list because there was a time that I was, investigating some surgery, and I have unsubscribed. I can't even tell you how many times, and like they continue to send me. So like somewhere in our emails or advertisements or people talking or whatever, like thoughts are going to cross our mind. It does not mean that we then have to take action on them. I mean, it is a really powerful thing to realize that just because the phone rings doesn't mean you have to answer it. Just because the doorbell rings doesn't mean you have to answer it. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean that you need to nurture it and engage with it and expand it and keep it alive. But it did remind me of a client that I had several years ago, and we were working together. She had lost probably about 30 pounds, and she was kind of stuck with the last 5 or 10 pounds. She was like feeling really good, but there like time was going by, and it was this like final like little bit that she just wanted to take off and to be rid of. And it was really interesting as we were like having this conversation and she was telling me about it. She was like, I know that I have just made so many changes in the way that I think about food and the way that I plan for myself and the way that I feel about my body. I know that if I could just get this last 10 pounds off, I know that I would be able to keep it off. And as I'm listening to her and she's telling me a little bit more about like her thinking and her actions and her activities, and I'm like, okay, this is like pretty common, right? It's a familiar story that we can take off a certain amount of weight. And then there's this like this other leftover business. The last 5, the last 10, right? And some people just kind of settle into that. And they're like, dude, it's awesome. Like, I'm so happy to not be 100 pounds overweight. Now I'm like 10 and like, I'm cool. And that's awesome. You get to decide for yourself. But for her, it was really, this last 10 pounds was like really important. And she really wanted to get it off. And she knew that was her best body was without this 10 pounds. And she was convinced that if she could just get it off. And I started asking her more questions inquisitively, trying to get an idea of what was going on for her. And I was like, hey, well, what will be different, right? Like say I wave this magic wand and you are now 10 pounds lighter. Like what's different? And she's like, okay. So she took a moment to kind of close her eyes, center herself, and like imagine this reality of her not carrying that weight. And she's like, well, I know that then when I went to the movie theaters that I would get the small popcorn instead of the large one. Like, okay. She's like, and I know that, when I went shopping, I would be, buying for my right sized body, and I would buy clothes that fit my body, and I would try them on and I would feel really good in them. And I said, okay. And she says, and I know that if I could just get this weight off, it would be so much easier to say no, thank you to people when they offered me things that I know just doesn't work for my body and doesn't make me feel good. Like I wouldn't feel obligated to like put something inside of me that I don't want inside of me. I was like, okay. And she kind of like started to go down this list. And it was really interesting as she was speaking these things that she had only thought about, but now that you're speaking them, it changes the energy, right? Like that's what one of the beautiful things about coaching or therapy or even talking to friends, right? Like we have these ideas in our mind about how things are. And as soon as we say them out loud, it's like we actually hear them, but in a totally different way. It comes at it from a different angle. And all of a sudden we can start to see our own chinks, right? Chinks in the armor where like the light of reason can shine through. And so as she's speaking this, I asked her another question. I said, okay, well, what's stopping you from making those changes in the way that you act, in the way that you believe, in the way that you think, in the way that you like honor your body? Like, what if you just made those changes now and didn't wait for the weight to come off, to feel better, to shop properly for your body, to get the small popcorn or none at all, to, honor your body and not have to put things in just because somebody made them for you or whatever. And she just kind of looked at me like it was like a completely new thought, but so obvious, right? It was like the light bulb went on and she kind of saw her own creation of her reality and what she needed to do next. And it was like so easy and simple for her. It was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. Like there's nothing in my way stopping me at this point other than this like thinking of, oh, well, I'll do these things, when I lose the weight. And I was like, that is so freaking awesome. So one of the greatest things that I want to share with you right now is the ability to question authority, to question our own sense of what is available for us and the possibilities that are on the table for us to be feeling really good at whatever weight that we're at, and allowing our body to soften into that experience. So there's really 3 questions that I think are going to be very helpful, that are very helpful for me. I found they're helpful for my clients, and I think that they'll be helpful for you as well. And the first one is why? Why do you eat? Now, this sounds like ridiculous, right? Well, whatever, Rose, like I eat because it's there. Okay. I eat because habit. Okay, so jot these down, right? Like not just the ones that I'm saying, really identify for you why you eat. Because oftentimes we try and do this like one size fits all kind of diet or plan or whatever it is, and not really engaging with the personal relationship that we have. Are you eating because you're hungry? Are you eating because you're supposed to eat this thing or that thing? Are you eating because of celebration? Maybe because somebody offered it to you and it's a gift. Maybe out of love, maybe boredom, right? Maybe you're avoiding some feeling or something that needs to be done or some conversation that needs to be had. Maybe it's simply comfort, convenience, celebration. Right? There's lots of different ways to eat. And so all of these different ways in which we engage with what we put inside of our body are going to require a little bit of different perspective, a little bit of different thought process and action and attention, right? It's not just one thing. And a lot of us who have been in that diet mentality for a really long time, as we are questioning ourselves and really getting down into why we are doing the things that we are doing, it makes it so much easier to address the variety of each day and not getting stuck in like, well, right now I'm eating because of habit or convenience or comfort or boredom or love or celebration or whatever. But on Monday, I'm not going to do any of that. And I'm only going to eat these specific things for the reason of losing weight. Now, you can begin to see that that doesn't work for a million different reasons. What happens when the habit kicks in? What happens when it's right there and it's convenient? What happens when you get hungry? What happens when there's a celebration, right? And so we end up setting ourselves up for failure, or this like sense of control, where then the end result is then I'll be able to somehow magically figure out how to have celebrations, how to deal with love and boredom, and when I'm emotional and when I need comfort and when it's habit and when it's convenience, and just to take the edge off, like somehow magically going to know how to do all that stuff without gaining the weight back or feeling bad or feeling naughty or having a cheat day or like whatever the weird messages that we put in our minds are. you can see how we end up not just physically doing weird stuff to our body when we diet, but mentally and emotionally doing things with our brain that are just not natural. And so that we end up fighting, and it's like control and then just total whatever, I don't even care, binge time. And we control, and then it's like, whatever, I don't even care, deal with it later. And it's just this back and forth that is quite exhausting, especially as the years go by. So again, I really encourage you to grab a piece of paper and jot down, why are the reasons that you eat food? And there's going to be more than one, right? There's going to be more than one. There's going to be a bunch of them. And so when we learn to address each one and begin to build strategies and self-care around each one, then it makes it easy. Oh, that's question number one. Question number two is, how will you eat when you are at your ideal weight? Now, there's not a right answer to this. The way that you answer this question is going to be very telling for you of where you are at on this like mountain of health, we'll call it, right? We're all going up the mountain. We kind of are starting at different places, and we need a little bit of different things. I mean, the basic gist is like, well, just, keep going, right? Keep going onward and upward. That is, consistent for all human beings, just like, okay, well, you're going to need sleep, and you're going to need some love, and you're going to need some food, and you're going to need some water, and those sorts of things. So we're all going up the same mountain of health, but where exactly are you? Right. And what is it that you need? So if you right now are thinking that like, oh man, if I was at my ideal weight, then it's like, whoo, man, I'd be able to eat the cake and not worry about it. I wouldn't feel guilty about it. It would be a freaking party, like celebration. Hallelujahs. This is amazing. That's very telling, right? So that's very telling of where you are at and what possible softness around some thinking and some guidance that you might need to really be able to get up the mountain and then not like fall down with a landslide. Right. So if you're thinking like that one client of mine was, who had already made a lot of effort and changes around the way she was thinking and eating, and she knew that at her ideal weight, it actually would be easier for her to say no, thank you to things that she didn't want or need. It would be easier for her to stay consistent with her plan of what she knows, her self-care. So that's going to be a really important question again, right? How will you eat when you are at your ideal weight? And if it is drastically different than the way that you are eating right now, then you might want to think about that, because you want it to be easy, right? You want the habits of taking care of yourself, your physical body, right? And to be the same or similar while you're losing weight as to when you are at your ideal weight, so that by the time you get there, there's no transition, right? Like there's some magical way of being that you're going to have to then learn without the motivation of losing weight to learn it. It is like just total crazy making, this whole idea of like, starving ourselves, pills and starving and dieting and liposuction and surgery and like all of these things to just like get the weight off, thinking that like that's going to somehow transform our relationship with food. And really, we transform our relationship with food and the weight leaves, right? Like, bye-bye. It's no longer an issue. That's not to say that your weight doesn't fluctuate. Weight often fluctuates. But if we're talking about like this extra weight that we're putting on when we just are feeling kind of like crazy and out of control with food, that's a little bit of a different thing, right? And sometimes the weight that we carry is really in our minds, right? I mean, like how many times have you looked back at pictures and been like, oh my God, I remember I thought I was so fat. I was so embarrassed of my body. I mean, like there was even a time that I went all the way to Australia and I was living there. And I didn't go to the Great Barrier Reef. This was back in 2005, because the people that were going that invited me to go with them, I didn't want them to see me in a swimsuit. So I never went, and I look back on that and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I saw pictures of myself and it's like, yeah, I was heavier than I am now, but like, heavy enough to be so embarrassed to like not adventure in life, to not go places and do things and have once in a lifetime experiences. I look back and I go, man, I don't ever want to keep myself from that, regardless of what my weight is. Regardless of what my weight is. And that really takes a change in the way that I perceive myself and my inner dialogue when I am looking at myself. Right? It's a big change. Okay, so that was question number. Okay, so question number 1 is, why do you eat? So make that list. Question number 2 is, how will you eat when you are at your ideal weight? Right? So imagine that and then jot down what your mind comes up with. And number 3 is, are you being proactive or reactive? Right? So when you are thinking about your food and your life and your day, are you like waiting until you're hungry to think about what you're going to eat? I have found that to be not a very productive way in making changes in self-care, right? So if you are waiting until you are hungry, you are putting yourself in a situation where there is not a lot of ability to think clearly and make rational, intentional decisions, because hungry is a signal from the body that like we need nutrients to keep going. So get them in. And we live in a culture where there's lots of things around that are edible that might have some keep you alive nutrients, but not really the ones that are going to like provide a healthy environment, but they are there. So then all of a sudden it's about convenience. And it's like, oh, well, I was hungry and it was there. Yeah, that's the right decision to make. If you have not made other plans and you are hungry and there is food there, that's the right decision to make, is to eat it. And so see how this circles back to the very first question of, why do you eat? And as you begin to understand yourself more and more and begin to realize that there are a variety of different circumstances to that you have an opportunity to address to make it easy for you. Like, I know that there's going to be celebrations in my life, right? I know that I'm going to get hungry. I know that I'm going to get bored. I know that I'm going to have feelings and emotions and want to avoid stuff. I know that I'm going to eat because of convenience or habit. Like, I know that or to take the edge off or whatever. I know that these are the reasons why I eat. And so if I want to have an experience where I have a good relationship with food and my body feels really good and energized, it's going to be important for me then to plan and prepare success for myself and make some, preparation and some meals and some intention, and do a little grocery shopping and do a little food prep and do a little thinking of what I'm going to eat for the day and how my day is going to go ahead of time, so that when these things come up, I already have a solution, right? And that's why I have people that I talk to, because I know that I get emotional and I like to eat, right? Like, that's that I eat because of boredom and avoidance and comfort and habit and convenience. I know that I do those things. And so it's like, okay, in a very loving and compassionate way, not like, well, don't do that anymore. Just don't have feelings. Just stop emotional eating. Just control it. Okay. Easier said than done, right? Like, I am a human being. That is not, I don't want to control it. I want to set myself up for success. Right. So it's the same in any relationship, right? Like, having a date night with your partner is a good idea, right? Because you know that you're going to want connection with them. And if the days and the weeks and the months and the years are going by and there's no connection, you're going to drift apart. And if you want to maintain a healthy relationship and connection, you have to be intentional about it. Right? You have to actually plan for time together, especially if you both have jobs and you got kids and you got life and things are happening. Like, you got to be intentional about it. Same with my mind and my body and my mood and my emotions. That's why I have a health coach, and I am a health coach, and I'm like talking about these things with people. And I get up in the morning and I do some exercise, and I do some prayer, and I do some meditation, I do some writing, and I plan my food for the day. I do all of these things because it makes my day so much easier, right? So I don't end up in a situation where it's like, oh my God, I'm hungry and I have no idea what I'm going to eat. Whatever, it's pizza. Let's do it. I don't want to end up in those situations. It doesn't feel good. I don't want to put off my emotions, and like not talk to somebody and not, and the days and the weeks are going by until like I have some kind of crazy binge because I'm all full of tension and emotion. And then I can be mad at myself about that. And I'm still not dealing with like the actual issue. Right. So I set time during the day or during the week or whatever the consistency is that I need for the different parts of myself that need, like dusting off throughout the day or throughout the week. Right. And so then there's not this like big mess to deal with. So are you being proactive? Right. And like everyone is a little bit different. Right. Some of us have like, physical, like hypoglycemia type stuff. And it's like, okay, like you need to be super proactive about, eating at certain times of the day. Some of us, it's more about we get so busy and, we forget to eat. And then we're so hungry, then we just like eat. So it's like, okay, then you got to start, consider bringing a lunch to work or taking an actual time or talking to your boss and saying, I need some time. Lots of different things to do. Again, being proactive instead of reactive and waiting for the emotion to be so big that we're forced to focus on this. Right. Because it's like, oh, there's so many things in life. Like I can't focus on all the things. I mean, I get that we get overwhelmed, and we don't get overwhelmed when we plan properly. Right. Like there's that one saying that someone said to me, they're like, Rose, poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And so I know we like to put things off. Oh, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'll deal with it Monday. I'll do it, after the new year, after the holiday or, whatever it is. And then that day comes and it's like, it feels like so much. And it's like, well, because you put it off. Right. It's like put off cleaning. You just like pile stuff and pile it and pile it and pile it and pile it. It's like, well, obviously it's a lot easier if you just do a little dusting every day. Okay. So the other thing is, are you anticipating the needs of your body? Right. Like we like to think that we can just starve ourselves or diet or take a bunch of pills or whatever it is. But like eventually the body gets hungry. And it's really hard to fight your physiology when your cells start screaming at you. It's really, especially if you got like other things going on in life, which we all do and we always will, right? Like it's never just going to settle down and like be peaceful, right? It's like, oh no, you have this whole year, not worry about anything, but like your food. No, there's lots of things going on all the time, right? So are we anticipating this, right? Again, back to being proactive. Okay, so those are the three amazing questions. Thanks for being with me through this time. I know I had this like little cough thing. I just had to get it out and could keep going. So 3 really powerful questions, especially if your mind is going off in the like, diet, starve, intermittent fasting, pills, whatever, liposuction, surgery. I mean, it seems like that thought is so seductive. It just is like so right. It feels so right. You know what I mean? It's like, if I could just get it off, like I would be fine. If this little, piece or this over here, or this roll or this weight or like whatever, like get it off and I would feel better. Oh, God bless us. It does. It does. That first thought makes total sense. And then we come back to, it's like, okay, well, before we go to that, because that might be the road that you need to go down. It's possible. I'm not God. So that might be the road that you need to go down. But asking yourself these 3 questions and just really getting down into what's going on will help you decipher if that's really the next right step for you, or if there's something you're avoiding. So again, just a little bit of a recap. Question 1 is, why do you eat? So jotting down all the different reasons why. Asking yourself how you will eat when you are at your ideal weight, right? Or body shape, size, whatever it is, right? When like you are feeling really comfortable and good, right? If there's something different. And number 3 is, are you being proactive or reactive? Okay. I love you so much. I hope you're having a really wonderful, amazing weekend. I'm planning. So I'm going to tell you now, just so you can put it in the calendar, because I know summertime, you get in a lot of whatever activity and things are happening. So July 1st and 2nd, that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be doing a weight loss workshop. So we're going to be going through how to silence the inner critic, self-care strategies. We're going to be really letting go of past stuff so that we're not weighed down by that anymore. And then I'm going to show you exactly what to do with your food so that you can just get the weight off and be feeling really great in your body. All right. I love you so much, and we will see you then. Love you. Bye.